Coming up here on today's show, the biggest storylines and rumors going into the Raiders' Week 4 game against the Cleveland Browns. If you don't already know, we're going to be live for this matchup. Make sure you're subscribed. We're going to be going live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're not ready to rock and roll, you got to have a short mindset. I know that game against the Carolina Panthers was a kick in the nuts. Well, guess what? The Cleveland Browns had their own kick in the nuts this past week against the New York Giants. So both teams are going to be looking for a win. Both teams have to be ready to go. And quite frankly, I think the biggest storyline going into this game is what were the players that Antonio Pierce was talking about in terms of the business decisions? Because if there's certain dudes that usually start on the offensive side of the football, the guys that usually start on the defensive side of the football, and they're randomly not out there, I think that's going to be a big indication of who Antonio Pierce was talking about with those business decisions. But also, on top of that, I'm hoping the Raiders make some good business decisions so that way we don't see the exact same thing that we saw last week against Carolina. If you missed this discussion, you probably live underneath a rock. But Antonio Pierce said this. As the game went on, I think there was definitely some individuals that made business decisions. And we'll make business decisions going forward as well. We got our ass whooped. I would have booed us too. So to me, when I hear the fact that AP is going out there and he's saying that, is like, if let's say Jack Jones gets benched, I'm going to go, well, then he was definitely talking about Jack Jones. If a guy like Dylan Parham is out there playing, I'm going to say here and go, well, why did Dylan Parham get benched when he's the best offensive lineman out there? I want to see more of JPJ, but why was that the decision that was ended up being made? Davante Adams on Tuesday did say that he wasn't one of the players that AP was talking about and that he agreed with Pierce, saying that there were some dudes that ended up taking some business decisions. But you know what? When you hear what Pierce said and when you hear him talk about the way he did on Monday, it really sounded like he was pointing the finger more at the defensive side of the football, which doesn't really surprise me because that's what AP is. He's a defensive-minded coach. But I want to know who the players were that Antonio Pierce was talking about when he said business decisions, because you're going to see, I think, a few guys that are usually starting that might not be out there in the field nearly as much as what we're accustomed to seeing. Now, here's what I want y'all to do. I want y'all to make a business decision and subscribe to the Raiders Report. We bleed silver and black here. There's a reason why we are the number one most watched Raiders YouTube channel in the world. You're going to get commitment to excellence. You're going to get a video every day. You're going to get somebody that shows up. But when the Raiders lose, I need to be able to vent too, and I need y'all just like you need Chugs and I. So I need you to make that business decision and hit that subscribe button. Let's go to storyline number 2 going into this Browns game. Will Luke Getsy continue to be horrific as a play caller? I think one of the things that I'm looking for Antonio Pierce to do is make a business decision and get somebody else calling plays besides Luke Getsy. I want Luke Getsy to go up in the booth because right now Getsy's on the field and that hasn't worked for 3 weeks. Go up in the booth. You got to try out something different because we can't just continuously sit up here and go, this Raiders offense stinks. And I've said it maybe 100 times, but I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of wanting a Raiders offense that just looks competent. Like, watching the Raiders offense right now is a real struggle. They look good on that first drive, and the Getsy just doesn't make any corrections in the second quarter, third quarter, and then we're playing catch-up in the fourth quarter. The Raiders are one of the worst teams in the NFL scoring in the second and third quarter in the league. Why? Because Getsy can't make any adjustments, and Antonio Pierce sees it too. So AP as head coach, you got to be able to go out there and you got to be able to make a little bit of a change. I mean, here's what AP said about Gardner Minshew. I thought that we did some good things, but the problem is when you don't win on early downs, the longer third downs are not in the best interest of our offense or Gardner. I know that the Raiders want to run the football, but you can't run the football just for the sake of running the football. If you're going to run the ball and you're only picking up 2 yards every time you get it, and then it's third down and long, it's really hard for your offense to be able to get any kind of momentum. If I'm the Raiders and I'm Antonio Pierce, I look at Luke Getsy right now and I go, at any point in this game early on, if you're running 3 plays, let's say, and if 2 of those players are run plays out of the 3, crumble it up, throw it out, scheme for a new 3 plays. Because the Raiders have shown you that they do not have that ability to run the football effectively. Yeah, I want to get the play action going. That's what you need the most because that's how Gardner Minshew is going to be good. That's how Aidan O'Connell would be good. The Raiders quarterback play, this offense in general, is not good enough just to sit back there and spray it with 4 wide. But they're also really bad at being able to run the ball, and passing is what I want to see. This team needs to sling the rock, because when they do, they get momentum, and they're just clearly a much better football team. Let's go to storyline number 3 that I'm going to be looking at going into this matchup. Will the Raiders' offensive line make any improvements or make any adjustments? Because I think I even deserve some blame in this. We've been yelling at Luke Getsy. There's people yelling at Antonio Pierce. Why is nobody yelling at James Craig? And quite frankly, I think I got to do a better job of being like, the Raiders got a brand new offensive line coach, and I knew the loss of Carmen Brasilla was going to be a big one. I never expected in a million years that the Raiders' offensive line would play as poorly and as bad, or in the words of our head coach, piss poor, as what this Raiders' offensive line has played. And when you look at some of these numbers here, according to the PFF, against Carolina last week, like, there's a few culprits week in and week out, but Cody Whitehair, Andre James, I'm looking at you. You guys simply got to be better. James was a little bit better last week against Carolina, but you're not going to be an effective team. You're not going to win in the trenches when you're getting your ass whooped on the interior. And the Raiders are getting their ass whooped on the interior. Now, one offensive lineman that I don't know if he's going to be able to play. Again, I'm making this video on Tuesday, so Thayer Munford is questionable against the Browns. He left really, really early in the game against Carolina. I want to say it was really early in the first quarter. And then DJ Glaze ended up coming out there, and he's more than likely going to be the starting right tackle for this game up here. But, like, the real question is, will Jackson Powers Johnson get the start this week against Cleveland? Because I want to be able to believe what AP says every single time he steps up there to that podium, just like y'all probably want to believe everything that I say every time when I'm up here. But, like, am I the only one that's a little bit confused? Because I was under the impression Antonio Pierce said that Jackson Powers Johnson was going to start. In fact, he answered 2 questions about it last week, that JPJ was going to get his first start up against Carolina, and then he didn't end up getting a start. So my question is, will JPJ start this week against the Browns? Give me a yes, give me a no. Let me know your thoughts after this YouTube ad break. I'm going to go yes. If the Raiders don't start Jackson Powers Johnson, then they don't care about winning. And I'm not benching Dylan Parham. You're keeping Dylan Parham in that game. You got to put JPJ either at center for Andre James, or you put him at left guard for Cody Whitehair. And, we've had a few people give their 2 cents on JPJ. He showed me that this guy's going to be able to get it done. And I think that he's going to be one of the better offensive linemen that this Raiders team has. And I know that I'm not the only person that feels this way amongst the nation. In fact, and I always say this, to me, I scout a lot of QBs. I feel like it's my best quality that I have as a host here on the show, is talking about quarterback play. I feel like it's the most consistent I've been since I've done this show through the NFL draft. Offensive linemen, though, that's not quite my forte. I look at guys like PFF. I look at, to me, the best in the biz for Raiders YouTubers is Sanjeet. And Sanjeet had this to say about JPJ. I think the Raiders have a star in Jackson Powers Johnson, only 21 snaps, mostly in pass pro. But sometimes you just can see it. His ability to process information, the power when he passes defensive line games, to winning every one-on-one situation. JPJ will be our best lineman in a year. So if I see the tape from JPJ, and I mean, everything I saw on Jackson Powers Johnson before the Raiders drafted him is a lot of what Sanjeet's saying here. But, like, what the Raiders decided to do of taking out Parham and putting in JPJ at right guard, I just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. If the Raiders want to put Jackson Powers Johnson at right guard, then Dylan Parham needs to go play left guard. However, though, Parham is playing at a very high level at right guard, and I would even consider kicking Parham into center or kicking Jackson Powers Johnson into center and benching Andre James outright, because he hasn't been a reliable player. Maybe you consider putting Jordan Meredith in this offensive line. The bottom line is this: if the Raiders do not start JPJ, and if Dylan Parham is also not out there, then this team doesn't care about winning, and that this team just cares more about pushing their own agenda, because there's no excuse of why Cody Whitehair is starting over Jackson Powers Johnson, or why Cody Whitehair is starting over Dylan Parham, or why Andre James is starting over Dylan Parham and Jackson Powers Johnson. Because if we're just taking on what we've seen from a 3-week sample size, you cannot give me an offensive line combination that doesn't have JPJ and Dylan Parham in it. If you're somebody on the Raiders coaching staff and you give me that, I'm going to look you dead in the eyes and go, you shouldn't be coaching in the NFL, let alone you shouldn't be coaching at all. That's just real talk. Coming up here, let's talk about Gardner Minshew, because Minshew's going to be a talking point in this game. He's going to be a talking point in every single game that we do. But I do want to show you guys, we got these brand new jerseys, and make sure that you guys tune in to our show on Thursday, because on our Thursday show, we're doing some crazy costumes, but I'm going to be giving away this Bo Jackson jersey on our Thursday live show. But if you want to make sure that you get Salute to Service jerseys, because they are going to be a limited value, go to chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys, which is going to see that link down there. And then on the game day for week 4 against the Browns, I'm going to give away this Salute to Service jersey by Maxx Crosby. We got a lot of veterans here that watch this show. Shout out to LA Crash Dog, shout out to Nav Man, shout out to Killer Cruisin'. I mean, the list goes on and on, the amount of awesome people that we've been able to meet. And if it's not for a lot of those Salute to Service members, that, guess what? We wouldn't be able to do a lot of the stuff that we do here. But these camo silver and black jerseys, dude, they're really sick, and we're going to give some away. But if you would just want to get your hands on one right now, chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys. That link's available to y'all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. Let's go to storyline number 4. If Minshew struggles, how long is that leash? And I don't like to use the term leash, but I think it's a good example here, especially with the guard dog. If Minshew goes out there, right, and he throws a pick early in the first quarter, you already know what's going to happen. The boo birds are going to come out. If he fumbles early on, people are going to want for Aidan O'Connell. But the fact that the Raiders met together this week as a team, and the fact that the captains especially really wanted Gardner Minshew to stay the starter, that majority of the players, the coaching staff made that decision together that, hey, Gardner Minshew gives us the best chance to win. Davante Adams this week said on Kay Adams' show that, taking Minshew out this early, he didn't think that that was the right move to do. But you have all those conversations, and it's easy to have those conversations Monday to Saturday, right? Come game time, if Minshew does struggle a little bit, do they pull the plug on him? And then do you see Aidan O'Connell out there early? That's going to be something that I'm going to be watching for this entirety of this game. I will still always say it doesn't matter who the quarterback is if Luke Getsy and the offensive line is doing what they're doing, but there's no doubt that's the storyline. But I think this might be the biggest storyline, and quite frankly, I think it's going to be the reason why a lot of y'all click on this video. Will Maxx Crosby play against the Browns? Since I've been covering this show, which is I've been making videos every day just about since 2019, and Max is the first Raiders player that has ever followed me on any social media platform. He's the first Raiders player that ever contacted me, and I think it's the best relationship that I have on this Raiders team. But I've also never seen Maxx Crosby miss a game. So when I think about how long I've been doing this show, and then I think about how long that Max has never missed a game, it scares the hell out of me to think like we might be without our star, our face of our franchise. And he's got a high ankle sprain right now. When you hear high ankle sprain, a lot of times that is minimum of like a 4-week injury. And I'm just telling you, there are conversations right now inside of that Raiders room of should the Raiders put Max on that short-term IR. Now, Max doesn't want to do that. Max wants to play. And, you kind of even heard Antonio Pierce talk about like, we might have to hold Max back from Max because Max last season played through that knee injury that literally could have killed him. He had bacteria in his knee, and Max said, no, I want to go out there, I want to play. But he's got that grade 3, which can take several months, especially if surgery is required. He's right now between the grade 2, grade 3 high ankle sprain of, like, real talk, a normal person, a normal player in the NFL, they're missing, I would say, minimum of 3 weeks. Max ain't that normal dude. And Antonio Pierce said even an 80% Maxx Crosby is better than most of the NFL defensive ends out there, which I agree with. However, though, right, there's the two-sided coin of, do I want Maxx Crosby out there playing? Yes. But we also have to realize that there is a chance that he might not be able to go in this game. But then there's also that other side of, I saw how injured Max was against Carolina. I think we all saw how injured Max was against Carolina. And even though he's only 27 years old, I know I'm not the only one that wants this guy right here to be a Raider for life, and I want him to have 5, 6 really, really good years left. And a lot of my friends that are back home, some of them of which are doctors, which is where I get a lot of my medical information from, are when you have a high ankle sprain and you try to play through it, you start compensating in other areas of your body. The last thing that I want is for Max, which has an injury right now, which can heal. You don't want that to turn into something bigger and balloon into something that could impact the longevity of his career. Because as good as what Max is, as soon as you start getting some of these minor injuries, they start racking up, it can really kill your career. I don't want that to happen, and I just want to make sure that Max is doing what's best for him. The Raiders are doing the best thing, and even if he misses this game, I want all of y'all to know it's Max doesn't want to miss it. Maxx wants to go out there and do his thing. But if he misses it, I think that just goes to show how injured he is right now. So we do have a big game, and obviously I want Maxx to be out there. But then here's the other standpoint where you got to look at Christian Wilkins, Adam Butler, John Jenkins, K'Lavon Chasen, a Tyree Wilson. Somebody's going to have to step up because even if he's out there playing, he's going to be on a pitch count. Maxx played 61 snaps out of a total, I want to say 74 last week against Carolina. If Maxx is out there, I'm going to imagine he's going to be somewhere around 70% snaps. The Raiders really only want to use him on the passing situations and in the big time situations when need be. But he's going to be amped. I hope that he's out there, and I think all of us hope that he's out there. So one more time, let's roll through the top trending story topics before the Raiders game up against Cleveland. Who are the business decisions? Now, are certain players that aren't starting, are they going to be out there? We'll see. Number 2 is, will Luke Getsy continue to be horrific? Antonio Pierce, put him up in the booth or have somebody else call some plays. If you didn't see my Fire Luke Getsy segment, I put 4 OCs that will do a better job than that clown show right there. Number 3, will the offensive line make any adjustments, make any improvements? Jackson Powers-Johnson, Dylan Parham better be starting on that line against Cleveland. Number 4, how long is the Minshew leash? I know people are going to be calling for Aidan. Let Minshew cook Getsy. Let him throw the ball down the field. And then the 5th and final storyline and the biggest one. Will Maxx Crosby play against the Cleveland Browns? He could potentially miss his first game of his NFL career. I hope it doesn't happen, but I do hope the best for Maxx, who is the face of this franchise. We got to do what's best for us now and in the long term, and I hope that Maxx is a part of this for the long term.